Hi Canada, First Weekend Club here, joined with Nimisha Mukerji, who's an multi-award winning filmmaker, GGCBC. And today we're going to talk about the 360-degree journey of a director in Canadian film. Nimisha, you started with a documentary feature which went on to win awards and is still being lauded 10 years after, for 65 Red Roses, into a very interesting few years, a very interesting decade of filmmaking and directing that now has you back ready to do another feature film. I want to hear about this and your journey starting with that and how that led you into where you are now today.
Yeah, I think I was really fortunate that my first film, my first feature, had such a warm reception, like 65 Red Roses. The release of the film to premiere at Hot Docs, and then Philip Lyle, the co-director, and I both got nominated for, at the time it was for Gemini, which went on to become the Canadian Screen Awards. So we were nominated for directing, and then to have the stamp of approval from someone like Oprah, who I idolized, I grew up watching, to have her support the film and take it and bring it to the States through OWN. I think what that film taught me was like how film can be borderless. It was a film we made locally. We were 23 at the time when we started, and it was a story unfolding in our own backyard. And it made me realize, you can take something close to you personal, and it can have like a universality to it, and have a global impact. And then coming off that film, I went right into making another documentary called Blood Relative. And that story took me all the way to Mumbai, staying with family there and making this film over 2 years that my husband Mark edited. And that film was very meaningful film to me. It was something Ava, the star of 65 Red Roses, had encouraged me to go do. And it was another medical documentary, but it was about, an illness called thalassemia that's treatable and preventable. It was just the fact that these children couldn't access the medication. And it was about one man trying to convince the Indian government to get them these medications for free. And so we made that film, and that had an incredible reception, actually, because we were nominated for multiple Canadian Screen Awards, direction, the Donald Britton Award for Best Social Political Documentary. My husband Mark was nominated for editing. And so that was, again, a really it was a passion project we made with knowledge, and it really taught me again that the skills I learned in 65, I could go out and make another film. I could tell stories that were important to me and have an impact. And then I started working in factual. It was documentaries. 65 Red Roses was picked up by Netflix and Hulu and had this sort of. It was right when Netflix was becoming big, and what was important about Netflix for me was that it really showcased documentary and not reality, I wouldn't call it reality TV, but these true stories, these nonfiction stories, and showed that there's an audience there for that. And so I was very fortunate with the rise of that in popularity. I was able to work and keep practicing and keep directing in factual, with CBC and Vice, and get to work on these amazing true stories with really compelling people. And get to drop into their lives. And then I went and did my third feature documentary, Tempest, which was completely different. And it was about this, 85-year-old burlesque dancer living in Las Vegas. She had dated Elvis, she was mistress of JFK. She had this incredibly wild life. But the story actually, it turned out, we thought it was going to be kind of a biography, and it ended up being about her trying to deal with the repercussions of being a working woman, of having this career, and what did that mean in terms of her personal life and her family. And so that film was picked up by Mongrel Media and had a theatrical release across Canada, which was very exciting for me to have that platform in Canada. And while I was making that film, I went and did a Crazy Eights film called In the Deep. And before that, I'd done a film called Beauty Mark. My husband directed it, but it was a scripted short film that we pitched at MPA. We pitched at Whistler Film Festival, and it won. And so that film had, been picked up for Telefilm's Not Short and Talent program at Cannes. It had played a ton of festivals, Fantasia, Whistler. It just played everywhere. And so between Beauty Mark and In the Deep, I had sort of dabbled again in scripted and narrative, and through those experiences with 10 years of documentary, I started to get these opportunities to direct or observe on some great Canadian shows.
TV show?
TV shows like Bitten, and then I got selected for an observer program through Disney. Omni Films had a program.
For those who don't know what an observer program is,
Yeah.
and who might want to get into that or
Yeah.
aspire, what is that?
So it's been formally known as director shadow, where you are a director and you go to a set and you usually have a wonderful director that has decided to allow you to observe them and learn from them and get comfortable with the crews and sort of, how the hierarchy works and how, also the politics and everything of what is involved in like production on
For
television on these network television shows. And so I was, one of 6 women chosen for the MECX4 Observer Program to go and observe. I observed director Kari Andrews and then Zach Lepofsky, and had an incredible time watching them, do their episodes. And then after that, I was selected by Women in View had a 2-ton more sinking ship program, which was Sinking Ship is a production company in Toronto that had this amazing program that allowed 3 female directors to come shadow or observe on an episode, and then they would get to direct on an episode. And that was really like my first opportunity to show, hey, I can work in VFX. It was a show called Dino Dana, which is about a little girl that saw dinosaurs, and I can do that. I can work with VFX and work with children. And because of that, I was able to get my first episode of half-hour television on MECX4 and really show that I could direct action, direct comedy, direct, VFX, direct children, and the diversity of that show was incredible and amazing.
And it's a Disney TV program, so
Yes.
that's next level.
Yeah, it was Disney XD, and it was my first half-hour episode, and I just won the 2019 Leo Award for Best Direction Youth Programming on that show. So that was a very, exciting, fulfilling moment for me to have gone from being an observer to actually, getting my own episode, to actually getting recognition from our local industry, for my work. And that was really the catalyst that got me now where I'm working, on multiple different kinds of shows, from, Chronicle Mysteries to Gabby Duran, and, getting to work more, which is, what I've always wanted.
And would you say, because it's such an interesting journey that you've taken, and it's particularly interesting because the first film you did had so much success, and to realize that still there's so many other marks to hit along the way, and to be able to hone and master as a director, that at all stages it's really clear with your story that you're still learning and you're still honing. Are you at a place where you can create your own now in a new way, where you can envision big series, or I'm not sure, but where are you at now with bigger creations?
I think the thing about it is you're always learning, but I also, through every experience, became more confident with my voice and my approach to telling stories, and understanding the value that I had something to contribute by being myself and having a unique POV in terms of how I wanted things to be seen. And 65 Red Roses was an amazing showcase for me as a young female person of color, to know that the story that I chose and the way that I chose to tell this story, had value and was embraced by so many different kinds of people. And so I think that, that gave, and having, Oprah love film, and someone who I looked up to as another, woman and person of color, it's like, you realize, like, I can do this. Like, I think with that film, it still took me a number of years to realize I'm a director. I can direct, and I am, I know how to tell a story. And I think that once I really believed in myself, it became a lot easier to start to tap into these different kinds of formats of different kinds of shows. And now with the stuff that I'm developing personally, those are passion projects, but they're also projects that I'm now taking my experience and going, how do I market this? How do I put this together as a package? How do I present this in a way that it actually gets the support it needs to actually get made? And I think that it's the film and television industry. So you're a storyteller and you're passionate, but it's also really equally important to me to have that hustle of how am I going to actually get these stories an audience. And, again, with 65, as like the first film, 23 years old, you had to get people to believe in the project, fund the movie, and then go out there and like make the movie and then go market that movie and sell it. And, I was lucky. I had, support with co-director Philip Weil, and we had the same, vision for where we wanted that film to go. And so I think I approach every project now with that same sort of determination.
And so do you outline your vision ahead of time where you want something to go?
Yeah, I think that you have to dare to dream, right? You have to literally say, I want that, this is what I want, and I deserve to get there if I work hard enough and I put the steps in place to actually get there, right? But I think you definitely have to know where am I going? Where do I want to go, right? It's not just luck, that things, at least not to me anyways, that things just sort of fall into place. It's, a willingness to do the work and have a vision of where you want to go.
Well, we spoke earlier with one of your director mentors, Zach Lepofsky.
Yeah.
And he said almost the same thing. He said you can have that $10 million idea and it can be way out there. Don't scrap that because it's not currently within your reach. Come back to what you can do right now, right here, and keep that. But don't be living over there. Live like right here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Zach
it'll
is
show
like,
up.
and Zach epitomizes that in terms of, wanting to make a film, like Freaks, and then doing all the work and all the years of work that went into that, and then, now the film is made as such a success and still, really pushing for it to go as far as it can go, right? So.
And that message again, it's just that being a creative and in this is a continual journey. There's always something to learn no matter where you're at. The things that you've just spoken about are applicable to anyone, whether they're in film school or whether they're, honing an Emmy Award-winning TV series.
For sure.
On the 5th season. You're still where you're at. And you're at a pretty awesome place.
I feel really lucky. I'm very grateful that I am getting to, for me this is living my dream. I get to actually be a director, a working director, and I get to work, create my own content. That's like the ultimate experience for me.
What makes you proud to be a DGCBC member?
I am so proud to be a member of the DGC, especially the BC chapter, because this is a real community. It's, everyone really is in competition with themselves. And what that means is that everyone's trying to do their best, and that means that they're able to support you, your colleague, your friend, and encourage you on your path. And my success is a result of many other directors, like Zach, like Jen Gerard, who have said, hey, this is how I can help you, and I want to help you, and I think that exists here is like really unique and special. That it's not that we perceive each other as each other's competition. It's like, what can we do to support each other on our paths, right? So I think that's a really unique thing about Vancouver.
It really shines through. It really does, and we hear that from filmmakers in the East. The community is different here. We also have different times when community can come together. I remember maybe closer to 2009 when there was a little bit of a lull in the TV and the service productions up here, and people were sort of itching to work, and people came together, and there was an actual boom of indie films being made that year.
Yeah.
Because people just wanted to go, what can we do? How can we support? What can we do during a little bit of the economic lull? And BC just went, boom,
well, and
indie.
That 2009 was the year that 65 Red Roses was released. And I remember it was just so quiet here because, being a service industry had changed. There weren't these big productions coming in. And what it meant to me was you have to always be okay with making your own work. don't rely on anyone else for work. You have to be able to be creative enough and crafty enough to come up with something, a story, and that's how I ended up making Blood Relative, and that was with a lot of support from local people here who wanted, again, there's so much creativity here, and they wanted an outlet for that, so I definitely benefited over the years from the community here.
Well, firstweekendclub.ca and Canadian audiences have loved following you and your journey and your films. Your films have been ones, Blood Relative, 65 Red Roses, that we have supported, that we were not only championing, but very proud to champion the support of, and we're really looking forward to seeing what's next up your sleeve.
Thank you.
Thanks for sitting down with us.
Thanks.